I guess the only way to answer that is yes. But the fact that we had the opportunity to practice makes such a difference. That's why I've been whining and bitching about All-Star break and 5 days. Players need to practice. The good golfers, the good putters, they just don't show up and putt well all the time. They practice. They spend hours on the range. And practice at this time of the year isn't about drilling the guys into the ice and getting them tired and getting them in shape. If they're not in shape now, they never will be. It's about fine-tuning little things, getting them to think about areas of the game. And we were able to do that for the last 2 days, and it paid off.
Todd, maybe not the first you would have wanted, but what happened between the first and second that maybe got them in the right direction?
We've talked a lot about structure and systematic play and positioning and that type of stuff, but we had to address the confidence level and the belief system with our team, and we did that between the second and third, the first and second, and I think that paid off a little bit.
Earlier in the year when you had Leon away from Connor, he produced quite well, and they were together and were obviously good. Tonight separated, and he produces again. Encourage you to maybe want to keep him at that position just because he's one of the guys that's shown you now that he can produce without 97?
It would be nice to cut him in half and put half of him at center and half on the wing, but it doesn't work that way. He made a comment, I think to you guys or to the media the other day, that he's very capable of carrying and manning a line, and I think he showed that tonight. So give him credit for doing that. And I think he's just a tremendous player, and he can play left wing, right wing, center. And when we needed him tonight to take over a line and get another group of players going, he did that. And I think that shows himself, that shows his teammates, us, the media, the fans, that he's very capable of doing it, and we're lucky to have him.
Todd, I don't think you go in every intermission and talk to your team all the time and pick.
Well, they probably wish I wouldn't, but right. For the most part I do, and a lot of times it's one little tidbit, it's an adjustment. There's always something little, just so they hear a voice and they reset, and it almost becomes part of the rhythm.
So let us in a little bit on why tonight is different. What tenor did you have in the first intermission that made it different than most times when you go in there?
Well, it wasn't technical. It wasn't, adjust this on the forecheck, do that on the back check, net play, face-off. So there wasn't very much of that. It was more about the belief system. And we hadn't won a lot of games, and I didn't feel like the group believed they were going to win tonight. I didn't feel like they believed in their new line mates. And we just talked about it a little bit. I reassured them I told them that they're a top 10 team for the last 3 months, and usually the Stanley Cup champ comes from the top 10 teams. And they kind of perked up. They never thought of it that way. Then we went through the scoring chances in Nashville. We went through the scoring chances in Carolina. We went through the scoring chances in Montreal. And for the most part, we believed we were ahead in them. And yet it took a shootout goal to get a win. So you're doing some things right. You can't beat yourselves up all the time. And just tried to get them to believe a little bit again.
Todd, how important was Hendrick's goal? Because that's the kind of goals you said you've been needed. And the second question is that the kind of goal Maroon has not been scoring, but the last couple of games he's been around the blue paint a little bit more?
Well, the goal is the end result, and Hendo's goal was tremendous. Patty Maroon's goal was tremendous. We did a little exercise this week where we took players' shot attempts, or not attempts, but actual shots on goal from the All-Star break coming out of the All-Star break, pardon me. And it was interesting to see who was getting secondary shooting opportunities, who was in and around the blue paint area, and who wasn't. And you can probably guess based on stats who was close and who wasn't. And I can tell you, Patty Maroon may have been the second most most opportunities in and around the blue paint. It just wasn't going in for him. So it's interesting when you look at it that way. You throw it up on a board and they have to look at it and go, hey, I'm not getting there. Sometimes it's a dose of reality.
3 points for Clefbaum, 25-plus minutes.
And 2 penalty minutes.
Yeah, and the penalty.
Good. We don't have to talk about that anymore.
How would you describe his performance tonight?
Thought he was on his toes. He played aggressive, disrupted a lot of their entries and their plays, which in turn led to transition, and he jumped into the play a number of times. His shot was a factor on one goal. His legs were a factor on another goal. And the defending part was pretty sharp tonight as well, so he had a good game. Yeah, he is. We're lucky to have Test, and I think his greatest assets are special ingredients. They may not just be general 5-on-5 play. They could be face-offs. It could be penalty kill. It could be on the power play. But that's a pretty unique fourth-line center, and we'll take that any night.
Todd, just the way you handled the power play, you guys made some adjustments, but they were fairly subtle. You hadn't been getting the results, just the tact you took on not necessarily blowing it up, but just tweaking?
There's always pressure, exterior pressure from media and that type of stuff when you go on a bit of a dry spell, but that you just don't throw a bomb into it and come up with successful solutions. We've done some good things this year. We just needed to polish it up a little bit. We needed some practice time. Again, small adjustments, not recreating the game, and we were rewarded for it tonight. But to throw it into a blender and have it come out, we were already doing that with every line. We sure didn't need to do it on the power play.
Any thoughts on Eero coming back after months of
It was a pretty impressive game by him. And happy for him. I think he ended up with the helmet and vest, whatever they hand out in there, which is a great thing. Skated well, better than I thought he was going to. Physical, scoring opportunities, in the blue paint, things that we've kind of been missing. So in some sense, he brought a spark to our team. Good night.